for some of you, it's easy for you to correct other people. You have no problem giving them your 7 points of what they need to do for their life to improve. But if somebody tell you what's 3 things you need to do, now you're getting a brain freeze. Come on. Because it's often hard to look in the mirror or to do a close examination upon yourself. And that's what these messages, that's what they have been doing. Amen. They have been very personal. And so likewise, not even planning it, this message, again, we're looking at some very personal messages. Go with me to the book of 1 Peter. Go with me to the book of 1 Peter. Again, we're looking at some messages again. Now, as you turn to the book of 1 Peter, one thing that I believe, messages that are given that are designed for us to look at ourselves closely, is that those are the type messages that produce growth or maturity. Come on, you can never grow or mature until certain messages come that force you to look at yourself. Come on, y'all know I'm right about it already. Come on, you might as well be giving up amen. Most of us, when we matured, it was those messages that God sent that were just personal. Sometimes they got, as the old folks say, under your skin, stepped all on your toes and your ankles. Come on, we need to include ankles sometimes. But when you really look, those are the messages that cause growth. Those are the messages that made you examine yourself and say, here's what I need to change. This is part of the problem. And see, when you're looking at the problems again, you ain't looking at other folk. I ain't looking at you because you ain't my problem. If God want to do something in my life and it's being delayed or put on hold, a lot of times I better start looking at me because I could be the problem, right? And again, self-growth will never take place. Maturity will never take place until you start getting messages again that are specifically designed, again, to cause you to just look at you. Look at you. 1 Peter. How many when you get dressed, you look at yourself? I'm just curious. How many when you get dressed, you look at yourself? Why you do that? I'm here to make sure what? Make sure everything's in place. I heard that. Huh? Make sure you're on point. Make sure you look good. I'm hearing that. How many get dressed and you don't look at yourself, period? You just get dressed and walk out the one every time. You never look at yourself. If that's you, I guarantee there's time you look a mess. And some of us, we don't just look at ourselves from a front view. Come on, we'll try to. You may even turn and just seeing if you, how things just. You see, you checking yourself out. Amen. That's all the word do sometimes. It just put us in front of that mirror and just let us see. Let you see yourself from the crown to the soles of your feet. Amen. Notice 1 Peter. Lord have mercy. I think y'all excited. I am. Amen. 1 Peter 5. Notice how God be helping us through his word. 1 Peter 5. 1 Peter 5, verse 5. Likewise, you younger people. Young, yes, in age. But Peter is also making a reference to those who are young as being immature Christians or immature believers. Likewise, you younger people, submit yourselves to your elders. Elders, in one sense, represent older people. In another sense, Peter is referring to church leadership, mature saints of God. So he said, likewise, you younger people, submit yourselves to your elders. Yes, all of you be submissive to one another and be clothed with humility. For God resists the proud, but he gives grace to the humble. Therefore, humble yourself under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in due time. Let's read again. Likewise, you younger people, submit yourselves to your elders. And without question, it's a blessing to have elders. It's a blessing to have elders. It's a blessing to have mature folk in your life. Seasoned saints. Am I right about it? That's a blessing. Yes, all of you be submissive one to another and be clothed with humility. Why do we need to be clothed with humility? For God resists the proud. He fights against the proud person. But he gives grace to the humble. And since God resists the proud, we don't dare want to be proud. And if he's willing to give grace to the humble, then he said, therefore, humble yourselves. Notice how? Under the mighty hand of God. God's hand represents God's authority. We need to humble ourselves under God's divine authority. Why? It comes with a blessing that he may exalt you, listen, in due time or in the right season. Based upon all of that, our message this morning is simple. Look at your neighbor and tell your neighbor the message this morning. Humble yourself. Look at somebody and tell him, humble yourself. And look at one more person and tell him or her, work on yourself. And let's give God a praise for the subject this morning. Humble yourself. The book of 1 Peter is written by the apostle Peter. Of course, we know that Peter was at the time of this epistle to the pilgrims in the dispersion, or to the saints who have been scattered. At the time of this particular writing, Peter is a mature, or he is a very seasoned apostle. The name Peter itself means rock. And the word rock has to do with that which is a foundation or something that is foundational. And so when we look at the life of the apostle Peter, first in the life of Jesus being set aside as a disciple, having been ordained to be an apostle, we see growth in the apostle Peter's life. I said we see growth in his life. We have to understand, even when it comes to a man such as Peter, when he wrote 1 Peter, he was not always in the place that he was when he wrote this epistle. And so when we look at Peter, again, as we're going to see today, that we can see the growth in the life of Peter. We can see the maturity in the life of Peter. Now, likewise, that doesn't need to just stop with Peter. We need to see growth in our own lives. We need to see growth in our Christian walk. Come on, somebody. We don't just come to church just to be coming. But if I'm truly sitting up under the word, the way that I need to be, and I'm not just hearing only, but I'm hearing and receiving, or I'm hearing and applying, then I should be able to look at my life and see growth. I said I should be able to see growth in my life. I said I should be able to see growth, maturity in my life. Break it down, Pastor. I should be able to look back over time and say to myself that trouble don't do me, like it used to do me. Come on, that's maturity. I said trouble don't affect me from a negative standpoint the way it used to affect me. What has happened? I've grown in God. Come on. And that's some of our testimony. Things don't bother us the way they used to bother us when we was immature. Come on. When some of us was immature, a person can just look at us wrong and it'll bother us for a week. We can just think that somebody rolled their eyes or somebody don't like us and it'll bother us for a long time. But now we are quick to understand in being mature that everybody's not going to like me. Everybody's not going to appreciate me. No matter how much you go out of your way for folk, everybody not going to love on you. Oh, y'all ought to be. See, that's part of maturity. You have to learn that no matter what you do, there are people who are going to have a problem with you, even if they themselves, you better watch this, cannot identify the problem. Come on, they'll just say stupid stuff. It's something about him. Come on, you ought to be mature enough to know that if God ain't revealed nothing, let that go. Come on, let that go. It could be on your end. Am I teaching right? But when you immature, some of everything bothers you. You'll worry about things that really shouldn't even be on your mind. But you just immature. How many of you ever worried about something that you never had to deal with? Never had to deal with it. Worried about it for weeks, and then all of a sudden, it took care of itself, so to speak. But you spend all that time worrying. But as you get mature, you're able to handle things better. Are y'all receiving? You're able to handle things better. Some of us, we're able to handle things better. And so when you look at Peter again, he was going to be foundational in the sense of Peter was considered to be the apostle to the Jews, while Paul was considered the apostles to the Gentiles. And through Paul and Peter and the rest of the apostles, they were foundational when it came to establishing the New Testament church. But he had to grow. See, I'm trying to let some of you know that God is going to do great things in your life, but God has to mature you before you can do certain things. Oh, my amen dropped in. I said, he has to mature you. I know some of us, we want it overnight. We want it right now. I'm talking instant grits. I'm talking microwave popcorn. We want it right now. But there's something God will have prepared, but he'll know you're not ready for it now. You got to grow some. How many out there you can thank God that you're blessed right now, and you got maturity with your blessing. You got wisdom with your money. You got wisdom with your resources. All that came through growth, but you wouldn't have wanted it when you was immature. Wouldn't have used it right. Am I right? And so something God, he gonna bring you into it, but you're gonna have to grow. He gonna have to work on you. Am I right about that? Now, when we look at the word humble, I only want to give us two definitions for the word humble. Number one, when a person is humble, they are unselfish. They're unselfish. It's not all about them. They're not self-centered. Woo, y'all don't know if y'all have met somebody. They act like the whole world. That y'all finished it before I said. They act like the whole world just evolves around them. Y'all ever had to deal with somebody like that? Very selfish. But see, again, when you are unselfish, that speaks of you being clothed with humility. You're free from arrogance. See, because no matter how much God blesses a person, whether it be with money, resources, or wisdom, we should never get to the point to where we're arrogant. And all God do for you, stay humble. Stay humble. Come on, somebody. I said, stay humble. The more God uses you, stay humble. Now, that seems easy, don't it? I said, that seems easy, don't it? But if you ain't careful, God will use you and you'll get beside yourself. Come on. He'll use you to tell somebody something. And what you told them came to pass. Now you're calling yourself a prophetess. Come on, you ain't got beside. Now you telling, you got one right. And the last 8 you done got completely wrong. You just guessing. Come on, you just guessing. See, you ain't staying humble. And it happened in the church. Person do a prayer and the prayer just, Lord uses them mightily in prayer. It'll just take somebody coming up to them just saying, oh, when you prayed today, I ain't never in all the years I've been in church heard nobody pray the way you pray. God taking you higher. And then they walk off. Now, if you ain't in the place you need to be in, what were they talking about? Taking me higher, how? And the next thing you know, you're beside yourself. It's quiet in the house. Number two, and this is our primary definition, to be humble is to be submissive to authority. When you are humble, you are submissive to authority. The main thing we're talking about is divine authority. Divine authority. Because one thing I've learned is that if a person can be submissive to divine authority, they won't have problems with any other authority. Come on, whether that be in the church or whether that be on your job or in your home. If you learn how to submit yourself to divine authority or to God, you won't struggle with authority that comes from anywhere else, whether it be directly, come on, I'm teaching right, or indirectly, you can submit. You can submit, am I right? But when you talk about being humble, it just makes you wonder. When you consider scriptures like Romans 12:3, where the Bible warns us not to think more highly of ourselves than we ought to, or that we should. Makes me just want to ask the question this morning, that have you ever thought more highly of yourself than you needed to? How many of you have been guilty? My hand is up. How many of you have been guilty? You thought more highly. I'm looking around the church. I want y'all to look around the church too if folk that got the hand up. Because some of them ain't got the hand up. They doing it right now. They thinking more highly of themselves than they ought to. How many of you ever get the hand up high? I really want to see. How many of you ever thought more of yourself than you should? I see some of y'all ain't never. I got to work on you. Be seated. Put your head down. Something going on with my folk didn't raise their hand. And see, this is often when we get like this, not only can some folk not identify it, but it's really something that's challenging to admit. Come on. I say that's challenging to admit to somebody. This is the reason why when we greet each other most of the time, and a person asks you, hey, how you doing? You rarely get a response. Oh, I got the big head. They're not going to come in like that. Come on. How things been going? Man, I done got too big for my britches. Ain't nobody coming at you like that. Even if they know there are clear signs to indicate you need to humble yourself. That can be a challenging thing to talk about. Am I right? It ain't really a shouting message either. Can y'all discern that? But see, one spirit that's prevalent, by spirit I mean attitude, in today's time is people being selfish and folk resisting divine authority. I say it's prevalent in our day and time, where you not only see young people, now I'm talking age, who have not been taught or not doing what they have been taught when it comes to something as simple as respect your elders. How many remember back in the day, young people were taught that if a person was older than you, I'm going down now, they didn't have to be mama or daddy. You gave them a yes sir and a no ma'am. And it showed them somebody been teaching that child, and that child been listening. Because they know how to respect the elders. But look at it today. Man, you have to be careful when you see young people somewhere and you think you just going to go up to them and just... I don't forgot where it was, but them young folk killed a man. 75 years old, they beat him down in a city at around 2:30 or 3 a.m. in the morning. I think the youngest child was 10, I think, that was involved. And it just makes you ask yourself, what did he do to him? You know what he did? He asked them for their age, why they was out so late. You remember how back in the day when you just saw somebody's child and you knew the mama, you get them. Folk rarely do that nowadays. They be like, I know who that child I ain't. But not just them. When we look at church leadership, quiet in the house. When we look at the pastor, ministers of the gospel, what first used to be called reverends because folk revered them or they deserve respect. But nowadays, folk won't even give respect to pastors. I ain't talking about some, I'm talking about folk who belong to the church. Y'all are quiet this morning. Let's go to 2 Timothy. Let's go to 2 Timothy. We're just going to work with it a little bit. We're just going to work with it a little bit. 2 Timothy 3. Because I ain't never thought more of myself than I should. So ain't nobody never accused you of thinking you know it all. Because when a person accuses you of knowing everything, that's what they're saying to you. You need to humble. You think you always right. Now, that's one thing when the person just saying and you know they lying. But you know there's some truth to that. You have to look at yourself. And I can't tell you how many times I've been told that. I'm just being honest with the mic. And I used to just blow it off. But then God said, you need to listen to that. You need to see if there's some truth in that. I wish y'all could see how folk looking at me over here. 2 Timothy 3, let's pick it up at verse 1. Notice what the Bible said. But know this, have this knowledge, that in the last day perilous times will come. For men will be lovers of themselves, selfish, lovers of money, boasters, proud, blasphemers. Notice that we're talking about in the last days. Perilous times will come. And they're describing some things that's going to be in the last day. Disobedient to parents. You're going to see that in the last day. Peter said people are going to be disobedient to parents. Listen, this is just not natural parents. But again, he's dealing with divine authority. Folks are going to be disobedient to parents, to divine authority. Folks are going to be told to do one thing through divine authority, but they're going to pay it no mind and do what they want to do. That's disobedient. I said that's disobedient. People nowadays, they join churches and they're not even submissive to the leadership. Name on the roll, but they doing what they want to do. That's disobedience. God don't put us under divine authority just to be doing so. You should obey divine authority. Oh, Lord. But see, what I found out is that you have folk inside of the church who struggle with authority. Now listen, because this might cut rough. Doing what they're told to do. I said doing what they're told to do. In one sense, authority has to tell people what to do. Woo! Ain't nobody tell me. No. Part of the pastor job is to tell folk what to do. Part of leadership in the church, part of their job is to tell people what to do. But people are not going to be submissive to me if I'm not submissive to God. Leaders, folk not going to be submissive to you if you're not submissive to your pastor. Come on, it's quiet in the house. But this is the day and time in which we live, where people are disobedient to divine authority.
Thank you for watching the Making People Productive broadcast with Pastor Leonard D. Cochran of A Place of Refuge, Noonan. To order your copy of today's message, please call the church office at 770-252-3855 and reference the message number listed below. We want to hear from you. If you have been helped, strengthened, or encouraged by the word, let us know. Also, don't forget to connect with us on all of our major social media platforms to receive exclusive information and updates with all things Refuge Noonan. A Place of Refuge Noonan is located in the city of Noonan, Georgia. If you would like to visit us, our worship times are every Sunday at 10:15 a.m. on location and live at 10:45 a.m. We also have service every Wednesday at 7:15 p.m. via Facebook and YouTube Live.